Hey guys, what's going on? It's Eli, back with another review video, and of course, continuing on with the Alien review marathon. Let's get this one over with. From 1992, this is Alien 3. Yeah, like, what could I have done, like, giving an introduction and such, and saying the title of this film, like, I tell ya, Alien 3, and now that I've finally seen it, watched it, and now that I'm doing my review on it, yeah, it's... I won't deny it. And I can see from a lot of others, even my dad, because, he joined me reviewing Aliens, because, yeah, he knew what Alien 3 is like and such. He's seen it, now I have, and, yeah, I can see. I could totally see. This is, and I was right, this is one hot mess. And it almost feels like it's unfinished and such. I know that Doug Walker, aka the Nostalgia Critic, said it best. The unfinished Alien sequel. And, seeing as how, when it came to filming Alien 3, they started with no finished script. That's a clear bad sign right there. Not to mention that development of Alien 3, well, it went through big development hell. It went through writers, directors, and different ideas for where the story what could happen in the story and where it would go and such. And, to think that, because after the first sequel, Aliens, look how that turned out, and look what would come next. It's sad. It really is sad. And when it came to this, well, it would just be the beginning of the franchise going downhill, pretty much. Yeah, so, again, now that I've seen it, finally and such, because the first things I have to say about Alien 3, well, it did not disappoint. It gave me exactly, and from what I've heard about it and such, yeah. Honestly, as I always am with movies, I can see where this Alien film, where it was going, and it seemed like the plot and such of, like, what was going on in the film, everything, it seemed like it could work. But if only, if it could have been better and such, you know what I mean? Not to mention, I am aware, because there's a director's cut of Alien 3, and not to mention, there's also been director's cuts of Alien and Aliens. The one for Alien 3, I think, yeah, a lot of people cite the director's cut being closely good, a little bit better and such, and okay, yeah, that's nice to see. But yeah, because I think pretty much, yeah, the version of Alien 3 that I watched, because I watched it on Hulu, pretty much it's the theatrical version, so yeah. I mean, it's like when I rewatched Aliens, well, clearly the version I watched was the theatrical version, because, yeah, the director's cut not being on Hulu and so on, yeah. But, just, you always have to get the DVD/Blu-rays, because they'll have the director's cuts, but anyways, yeah. Because, yeah, I mean, Alien 3, I thought it was okay, and I think, yeah, a lot of other people like me feel the same way, too. Of course it's not the best, and, I mean, I don't know, because compared to this, and say, the next Alien film, like, I don't really see this being that god-awful, but, yeah, it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate how this turned out, because, with it going through development hell, and, bad luck for 20th Century Fox, its cast and crew, and its director, especially its director, poor David Fincher, yeah, because David Fincher, him directing Alien Resurrection, this was his first ever movie. Yeah, his, like, directorial debut directing movies and such, because before he did Alien Resurrection, and yeah, I think, yeah, he's still doing it, directing music videos. That's his main thing. But thankfully, after doing Alien Resurrection, he would find himself having a pretty good directing career very later on, because well, he's the same guy who brought us Fight Club and The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, you know, the one film with Rooney Mara and Daniel Craig, that film. Yeah. So, yeah, a bad start for David Fincher, and from what I've heard, yeah, because he was just stressed out by this, and things weren't going his way doing Alien 3, especially because, well, Fox was interfering with the production such. That's another bad sign right there. The movie studio interfering and screwing things up, like, just let the people and the director do their thing, and if they did, because maybe Alien 3 could have turned out not that bad, especially, like, it more likely could not top off the first two Alien films if they had done their thing, if Fox had not interfered and such. You get my point. Jeez. Yeah, and there's a couple more background stuff I do want to mention, but before I do so, as always, read the description / the story. Ellen Ripley is the only survivor when she crash lands on Florina 161, if I'm saying that right. Florina, yeah. A bleak wasteland inhabited by former inmates of the planet's maximum security prison. Once again, Ripley must face skepticism and the alien as it hunts down the prisoners and guards. Without weapons or modern technology of any kind, Ripley leads the men into battle against the terrifying creature. Okay, so before getting into the film itself, still, a little more bits of background I want to mention very quick because, yeah, again, Alien 3 sadly going through major development hell, and the ideas they had for the story of Alien 3 going through writers, directors, well, one of them, at first, they wanted to focus on Hicks and Bishop, and at first, and for a while, because it was considered that Ripley this time not be the main character. I mean, still be there, but just more of a cameo and such. And Sigourney Weaver, well, obviously she had signed for Alien 3, and she had no problem making a cameo and such. And, well, I assume as though Newt would have also been another focus as well, alongside with Hicks and Bishop, I assume. And they were considering, shooting this idea for doing an Alien film focusing on Hicks as two movies. Film two movies back to back and such, but Fox, they were not liking this, and thus, they went for a new idea and such, like one idea about, humans going against the Wayland Company and such, another idea having the xenomorphs come to Earth and the humans taking on the aliens, the xenomorphs, and then another idea, there were two ideas, one about, this planet, with, monks and such, and the other one, that has a prison planet and so on, it's a prison planet. And by that point, they were running out of time, and they just decided to do both, incorporate the two ideas with, monks and a prison planet, yeah. And this time, and because they went with that idea, well, when it came down to the characters and who would be the lead, well, Ripley had to be the focus, and especially the president of 20th Century Fox at the time said, best way I can put at it, it was a major thing, and because, well, Ripley being the lead of the first two films, and, nowadays, because there's plenty of female leads in movies, but back then, this was kind of a rare thing. So Sigourney agreed to this, but under one condition: Ripley being axed off. And thus, they obliged, they went with this. Ripley was written to have been killed off and such, so new territory would be discovered and so on. Yeah, but that didn't last long. Because what would come next in the fourth installment? But with the exception of the fact that, yes, the Ripley died, but technically, because we got Ripley back in the fourth film, there's still a difference, and I think you know what it is, but, you know. Anyways, so, yeah, and again, when they started filming officially, they started without a finished script, and, yeah. And I have no doubt that, you know, they tried their damnedest, pardon my French, but it's true, because it's a shame, like, what they went through, and it seems like they were trying. And because after the first sequel, and how amazing that turned out, they thought that they can do this again with the third installment. But sadly, and like I said, just bad luck. Complete bad luck. Alright, but with that being said, getting into the film itself, yeah, because, taking place obviously after the events of Aliens, and I don't think the movie establishes when exactly this takes place, like, what, maybe like a year or so after Aliens? I mean, everything ended well for our main characters, though those who survived. But sure enough, nope, didn't last long, because somehow an egg got into the ship, and, well, bad things start to happen in the ship, and we do see at one point, and as the credits are rolling, which is kind of interesting for that to happen, because why couldn't the credits start and then we'd see what was going on? But I get what the movie was doing, but if it could have been done better, you know what I mean? So yeah, well, we see obviously coming from one of these eggs, and assuming as though that the queen alien somehow got an egg in the ship and such. Well, because, you know, a face hugger coming out, and apparently we see that the facehugger got on someone's face and such and managed to break through one of those, hypersleep, cases, where they're in hypersleep, yeah. So, and then at one point, well, because the ship approaches a planet and it crashes and nobody survives. Nobody survives with the exception of Ripley. Yep. Hicks, Bishop, and poor Newt. All three of them are lost. Yeah, they, have been lost and such, and because of the crash and how they got killed, and then their cryo, tubes and such, into hypersleep. Like, apparently because Newt drowned, and I think, yeah, Hicks was crushed, and Bishop, well, I mean, we know he's an android, so he got very badly damaged. And like a salvage team and such, like, they investigate the crashed ship and such, and part of the ship, like, there was an escape pod and such, and that, still landed on the planet, and part of the ship being called Eve. Yeah, Eve. So, and again, Ripley being the only survivor, she's brought in, and we see, because where she's at, well, this prison place where monks are kept and such, and basically these monks, and they have their religion and such, they used to be murderers and rapists. And I gotta say, these characters in Alien 3, interesting batch of characters, and, and just like what the first two Alien films did, we get to know each of them and their personalities and what they're like. Of course, we once again have Ellen Ripley as Sigourney Weaver. There's Charles S. Dunton. Yeah, I think I got it right. He plays Leonard Dillon. Yeah. Then there's Dr. Jonathan Clemens, being played by the legendary Charles Dance. And there's also Walter Golick, if I'm saying that right. And I completely forgot that was him. I don't know how I recognized him when I watched the movie. I knew at first that he was in it, but at a certain point, and when it came to me watching this, I completely forgot. Walter Golick being played by Paul McGann, who would become the eighth Doctor, in the Doctor Who movie, and nice to see that later on he would have more Doctor Who materials with him as the eighth Doctor. So so before he was one of the incarnations of Doctor Who, he was in Alien 3. And there's also Harold Andrews being played by Brian Glover. There's Francis Aaron being played by Ralph Brown. And there's Robert Morse being played by Danny Webb. There's Daniel Raines being played by Christopher John Fields. There's Junior, played by Halt McGallany, if I'm saying that right. And there's, Bishop. Aside from Ripley, the only other cast member who returned for this from Aliens, Lance Hendrickson, once again playing Bishop. And by the way, because Michael Biehn, who played Hicks, he stated that he was disappointed what happened to his character, and he also stated that he would have been down. He would have hands-on, have been down to come back to do another Alien film, but he didn't mind that his character got killed and where the story was going and such, but what he was disappointed about was how it was done and such, it's understandable. And I do wonder, because what's-her-face who played Newt, how she felt, and yeah. Well, the fact, because, she didn't come back to play Newt, because, even though, Newt died, someone still played her, and that being Daniel Edmund, I think, I got that right. Yeah, Daniel Edmund played Newt, in some shots where we do see her body and such, her lifeless body, but anyways. So, and we find out that this prison planet is a part of the Wayland Company. And, we also find out later on the Wayland Company is well aware of what happened on the ship that Ripley was on and such. They know that there was an egg, a face hugger was hatched, came out of the egg and such. And, very soon, a xenomorph will pop up and such, after it takes a host and so on. And Ellen Ripley, because her being unconscious, and she does wake up, and her being greeted by the doctor, Dr. Jonathan Clemens. I gotta say, the chemistry between Ripley and the doctor, not bad. And seeing as how very later on, they seem to get very close. Yeah, so because of my eyebrows, that's a clear sign, but anyways. And some of the characters, the prisoners, boy, because they can sometimes be a handful. Like the jailer, because the doctor called him the jailer, Andrews, I believe that's him, because, him, being in charge and such, and, just giving the others a hard time, and Golick, Paul McGann's character, he was a handful sometimes as well. But, so, Ripley adjusting, being on this prison planet, and to speed things up, because we do see that the facehugger did take on a host. At first, Ripley finding out and suspecting that, an egg somehow got on the ship, which turns out, she was right. And again, I assume the Queen alien, she found a way doing so, clearly. And when they made it back, and the Alien Queen was a stowaway, and how quick the Alien Queen was. But anyways, and you know what? Could they have not double-checked to see if the Alien Queen had possibly done anything when they arrived and after they defeated the Alien Queen, blowing her out into space? That's what I'm wondering. And you know what? Because when you realize this, and I did, and as have I, even James Rolfe, aka the Angry Video Game Nerd, as he, because he clearly established this when he reviewed Alien 3, because, could they have not checked the entire ship to see if possibly the Alien Queen might have not left anything and such, But I don't want to make a huge deal about it, just, because, how are they supposed to know? And how are we supposed to know? And I think that goes for the writers. So, a nice little surprise that happens in this movie, and what the Alien Queen left behind. Also, want to mention this because the fanfare of 20th Century Fox, very interesting because, it doesn't finish. Because when we get to, dun, 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 and just, oh, that's awesome. Because this is Alien, that's pretty cool. The fact, because, the main characters from the last Alien film and those whom survived, aside from Ripley, then being killed off, that does take huge balls. And, technically this isn't the first time we've seen something like this, because there have been some films where we would see main characters be killed off very early on in movies. Like, I can think of, say, Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho. You know where I'm going with that, because, yeah, so that's a good example right there. But, I understand what Alien 3 was doing, and because they killed him off that quick at the very start of the film, if it could have been done in the right way and not in the way how it is in the final movie, we're just like, oh my gosh, like how they did that, you know what I'm saying. But yeah, but overall, I mean, it's a shame that, we lose the other 3 survivors from Aliens, and, but at least, we still have Ripley till the very end of the movie. But anyways, so again, Ripley's suspecting, and which turns out to be true, and she thinks at first that the facehugger got to Newt, and she convinces the doctor to, check on Newt's body, and, to cut open her body, look, inside of the body, and all they see is lungs and such. The main guys of the prison planet, they're not pleased by this. And because pretty much most of the prisoners, except for like 1 or 2, because they're all British. Well, I mean, I think, yeah, some Australian, some British, but yeah. And to mention some of the other characters, like there's also Alan Jude being played by Vincent how the heck do you even pronounce his full name? But yeah. There's also Edward Boggs being played by Leon Herbert. There's Frank Ellis played by Carl Chase. And there's Thomas Murphy being played by Christopher Fairbank. And there's David Postlethwaite. I always have trouble pronouncing the last name. Being played by the late legendary Pete Postlethwaite. You know who he is, yeah. Because for me, I remember him best in James the Giant Peach, and he was in The Lost World, Jurassic Park, the first Jurassic Park sequel, yeah. And there's also Yoshi Troy being played by Paul Brennan, and Clive William, played by Clive Mantle. That's funny sometimes when actors, they play characters that would sometimes, like, share either the first or last names, So, in this case, for Pete, his character David, both of them sharing the last names, so yeah. And for Clive, him and his character sharing the first names. But anyways, there's also Peter Guinness being played, he plays Peter Gregor, yeah. Alright, but anyways, so, yeah, so unfortunately, there is no sign and nothing in Newt's body of the facehugger did not go to Newt's body, so what? And apparently there was a second egg that made it onto the ship as well. How was that possible? And knowing the facehuggers and, well, the alien queen and such, because we saw her in Aliens hatching those, laying those eggs. I mean, Alien 3 doesn't establish that, so I guess it's not really important. It is one of those things, and it didn't matter to me, even now, because I realized, but anyways. Apparently, where the facehugger is, and the host the facehugger takes, well, early on, we saw a dog, and apparently, the facehugger takes the dog. Yeah, because, unfortunately, yeah, the dog got attacked and was, the facehugger got onto the dog as its host and such. The dog is a bit wounded, injured, and so on. And at a certain point, and when it comes up to Hicks and Newt, their bodies being cremated, and especially Ripley requested this, and there's a ceremony and prayers and such, while that's going on, at the same time as that's going on, well, the poor dog meets his demise, because whimpering and, well, because what the facehugger put in the dog, it's about to, burst out of the dog's chest and such, and that's what happens. We don't see that much of it, but we get a clear and good idea what happens to the poor dog. And just like what we saw to poor Kane, and yeah, so, and it's interesting because the xenomorph in this, and there's only one xenomorph in Alien 3, and that's nice to see that they're once again there being one xenomorph, just like how there was one in the first Alien film. Nice to see. How the xenomorph looks and how it walks like a dog on all fours, and that's nice to see. And because it can morph and take the position and look of anybody, like the face hugger that takes someone as its host and such, and with the xenomorph popping out of anybody's chest. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's clever. And, well, xenomorph, the word and name of xenomorph having morph in there. You know exactly what I'm saying. That's clever. That's clever. And that's one good thing that comes from Alien 3, because, the xenomorph's taking any, form and how it moves and so on. And yeah, again, the xenomorph in this moving like a dog. Yeah. And let's talk about the practical effects, because I think for a lot of people, it seemed as though at first maybe the xenomorph in Alien 3 was CG, but no, it was entirely a practical puppet shot by a green screen, blue screen, and it's obvious, even I can tell. And even though we don't get that many shots in the theatrical version where it's running on all fours, yeah, it's obvious that it's not really good blue screen, green screen effects, But again, I think the director's cut made it better, I'm pretty sure, yeah. But that's not to say there's not any awesome, cool things that happen with the xenomorph, well, especially because, well, when the xenomorph bursts out of the dog, well, all hell is going to break loose on the monks and Ripley, because what's in store for them, and, well, when it goes for its victims, I believe, yeah, Thomas Murphy is the first victim for the xenomorph. Yeah, the xenomorph, his first victim is Thomas Murphy, because, when the xenomorph attacked Murphy, it caused Murphy to slip and, slide down, a fan and such, and, yeah, getting, shredded, jeez. And they see what happens to Murphy, and they're just wondering what's going on. Ripley, eventually she does tell the main people of the prison what she thinks it is, a xenomorph and so on. But, yeah, they don't believe her and such. But the Wayland Company, as I said, they do. And the doctor, at a certain point, he wants to help and listen to Ripley and what she thinks is going on. And remember what I said? Because, they soon get close. Yeah, because they do kind of fall in love and such. But sadly, what happens for the doctor, yeah. And in order to get more information and to figure out how this happened, how, apparently and out of nowhere, an egg got on the ship, well, she has to get information from Bishop and what's left of Bishop. She managed to find and salvage Bishop's body, but at one point, and when she packed, half of Bishop's body in a bag, well, there were a couple of monks that were surrounding her, and basically they were going to rape her. But thankfully, one of them, yeah, that was Leonard Dillon, because him stepping in, and he's kind of redeeming himself, because especially after the ceremony of Hicks and Newt, their bodies being cremated, Ellen coming into the cafeteria and everybody just staring at her, and, when she interacts with some of them, and of course, one of them being Dylan, well, Dylan telling her that, she won't be comfortable being around him, as he clearly establishes to Ripley that he was once a rapist and so on. But when it comes to a bunch of monks, about to rape Ripley, Dylan's stepping in and pounding them. That was his redeeming moment. Pretty much, yeah, it's obvious. So, yeah, nice to see that, yeah, he redeems himself, and by helping Ripley, and not to mention, the planet, and with, having a prison, they haven't seen a woman for quite a long time, and this is the first time they're having a woman in this prison. And, yeah, so, yeah, and more stuff between Ripley and Dr. Jonathan, and, even though Jonathan is a doctor, well, Ripley finds out that, well, he has a code on the back of his head, because they are monks, all of them, they have their heads shaved, and Ripley, she has her head shaved too. I don't know, because I don't think I've ever heard anybody complaining about the fact that Ripley, throughout the entire film, is bald. I think she looks good, and in this, it works, yeah. I mean, she does have hair, of course, at the start of the film, but at a certain point, and yeah, after they cremate Newt and Hicks' bodies, yeah, she does shave. Yeah, so, and, like, again, Ripley and Dr. Jonathan kind of hitting on each other, and again, she realizes that there's a code on the back of his head, and even though he's a doctor, like, there's something else that Dr. Jonathan is not telling Ripley, and eventually he does. We get more background on Jonathan and so on, and, it was kind of sad. And then when it came to him being in this prison, and he would become a doctor, yeah. Also, some of the prisoners, well, them searching around the place, and because of what happened to Murphy, trying to see what it was, and, well, we knew it was coming, because some of them, they meet their demise, yeah. Edward Boggs being one of them, yeah. Yeah, but, like, they still don't know what exactly it was that's still killing some of the prisoners, but Ripley still having a good idea what it is, again, talking to the main people of the prison, they still don't believe her, and, quite a story, and so on. And also it's mentioned that a rescue team will be on the way soon, and that, of course, coming from the Wayland Company. Because especially after the first two Alien films, we all know by now what the Wayland Company is like, and especially knowing that us audience, and that of course goes for Ripley, not trusting the company. Yeah, ever since what happened in the first film, and still, they're still doing this. And like I said, they know what happened on the ship, the recordings and so on, that an egg got on the ship. They still, and like in the first two movies, want at least one xenomorph for, bioweapons and so on. Jeez, they're risking it, and they don't care. Okay, but continuing on, and more on Andrews, Harold Andrews, who is the jailer, as Dr. Jonathan calls him, the main guy, of this place, him being a huge dick, and, not believing in Ripley, and, because giving announcements and orders to the prisoners and so on, and to speed things up because after Dr. Jonathan Clemens, giving his full background to Ripley, and he was attempting to do this at first, the first time, when Ripley came, injecting, something, nothing bad and such, because after he did so, and Ripley, yeah, I think because by now she does fully trust Dr. Jonathan. That's good to see. Well, out of nowhere, and just behind those kind of curtains you would see at hospitals, well, there is, right behind them, through those curtains, it's the xenomorph. And poor Dr. Jonathan, he sadly meets his demise. And by the way, because one of the surviving prisoners that came face-to-face with the xenomorph, telling them, he saw what he saw. And yeah, by now he believes Ripley, obviously, and Dr. Jonathan, because he was starting to believe Ripley. But sadly, yeah, again, Dr. Jonathan, he met his sad demise. Gosh, so much for Dr. Jonathan, and the further romance we would have had with him and Ripley. And the xenomorph just coming up close to Ripley, and this was a really cool shot, and everybody has seen this shot before, where, yeah, Ripley is by the wall, almost like in the corner, and the xenomorph just like that shot. That is awesome. And for some reason, the xenomorph spares Ripley. Why? I mean, she would have been finished by now. That instantly, and but there is something we don't know quite yet. And nor does Ripley know at first, but further on, and yeah. So after that, well, Ripley, she goes to the cafeteria where the monks are at, and Harold Andrews telling them and such, because, giving another announcement, a speech, and because of what happened to some of the prisoners, just mysteriously getting killed. Well, Ripley telling them that it's here, and Harold Andrews still being a dick, not believing her, and, well, sure enough, the xenomorph once again pops up, this time from the ceiling, grabbing Harold Andrews. So, with how much time left, he got to see the xenomorph himself, and yeah, Harold Andrews is done for. And once he disappears, the xenomorph takes him, well, because the monks, just scattering a little bit, and one of them grabbing a chair, and the one that grabs the chair, it was pretty funny how he said it, the F-bomb, F, how he said it was funny. So, what are they gonna do now? What are they gonna do now? Because, now that Harold is done for, well, who's gonna lead them and such? Well, Leonard Dillon, at one point established that he's not leader material, and some of them are turning to Ripley, because it's best that, that Ripley should be in charge, because, she knows what she's dealing with, and, twice dealing with the xenomorphs. So, yeah. And again, just some of them being a handful, Gallic being one of them. And Daniel Runs. Well, yeah, Daniel Runs was another handful, too, in this. But also, number 85, that's what he's called. And obviously, because of, the code that he has, the code bar on the back of his bald head. But his real name, 85 being, who was, wait a minute, well, who was, yeah, Francis Aaron. I almost forgot. Francis Aaron. Francis Aaron, that's his real name. And the more we know on Francis Aaron and how he does help out Ripley some more, well, because what we find out from Francis Aaron, he's a family man. He's got a wife and kids, and he wants to get out of here. And again, the attention being turned to Ripley, and now she's in charge, and, well, they'll do whatever it takes to destroy and kill the xenomorph. And some parts of the prison that have not been touched for years, they go down and, what they're going to do, at first, blowing up part of the prison place with the barrels and lighting a match in order to destroy the xenomorph. Well, because, through Ripley's experience, and with fire, yeah, because, fire being a big thing for the xenomorphs, killing them and such. It seems like everything's going pretty well, when one of them climbing up the ladder, got the match in their mouth. It did drop at one point, trying to reach for it. He grabbed it, but when he looks up and he could see the xenomorph, yeah, and it just gets out of hand and it doesn't go according to plan. And because the match drops, it hits the the oil and so on. Well, a big explosion happens, and yeah. And still, they're screwed. The more that they're losing to the xenomorph, the more that they're screwed. Not to mention, well, still, the rescue team, from the Weyland Company, will be on its way soon. And, still, they just don't know what to do, but, further on in what Ripley tells them and such. But also, there's a moment where something's up with Ripley. She's kind of twitching. She doesn't feel good. And she goes back to, well, the escape pod and in one of those tubes that she was in, hypersleep and such, and to be scanned, because she's feeling something in her. It's not quite right. Francis helping out, running the computer and scanning her, and what's inside of her brain, an x-ray and such. Well, because turns out Ripley's the one that has a xenomorph in her. Yeah, because, like I said, apparently there were 2 eggs that made their way into the ship, and how there are 2 eggs, because, again, knowing the facehuggers and such, again, the movie doesn't establish that. But, yeah, overall, and point being, yeah, she has one inside her, and by this point, she wants to die. She wants to be killed, because her being killed, that will save the day, basically. Even, like, when she talks with Leonard Dillon, like, she tells him about, there being one inside of her, and she wants to be killed. She asks him to help kill her and such, but he's not doing it, because what's going to happen is that the xenomorph will die first, and then her. Alright, but anyways, and still, to speed things up, because, yeah, and actually, because early on, alright, but, yeah, so to speed things up, alright, but anyways, so, yeah, to speed things, alright, so, alright, so, continuing, and still, to speed things up, because, actually, early on, well, because, things kind of, got out of hand between Ripley and Francis, because, he just wants to get off this planet and this prison and to be with his wife and kids again. Well, he also finds out, and from one of the main computers, that, again, the Weyland Company being very well aware of what happened, and they know about Ripley still being alive, and they want her alive, they want to bring her in and such, yeah. Also, because I don't think I mentioned this yet, an important thing, well, actually, no, because, no, I did, reading the description / the story, yeah. The prison having no weapons whatsoever, and to think, like, the weapons being a big thing to help them and save them, taking down this one xenomorph. Like, it's unbelievable, like, not having weapons just in case. So, and this is science fiction, but anyways. And Ripley, at one point, she goes alone, coming face to face with the xenomorph. And, well, we think at first that, well, maybe this time it's going to get Ripley, but no, because she has a xenomorph inside of her, well, the other xenomorph, running around, and it knows what's inside of Ripley, and will not lay a finger and kill Ripley. So, yeah, that's nice to see that a xenomorph is sparing someone, but, of course, reason being, something inside of her, which being another xenomorph. Okay, but continuing, because, well, still, they don't know what else to do, and, especially after what happened, a big explosion, but, more talk between Ripley and Dillon to the prisoners, and especially, with Francis, because, again, he wants to get off, and how he feels, and, he hates being called number, 85, being called 85, and also, it's kind of funny, because, there's a couple times, where, because because this is Alien, there's a lot of swearing, and a lot of, F-bombs and the word shit, because sometimes they say that, they shouldn't swear, and because, their religion and of God and such, but at least for Edward Boggs, he stated that the word shit is not against the Lord, how he says it. And you get the point. So, again, with more talk and such from Ripley and Dillon, well, this time for sure they're going to do whatever it takes, and, any chance that they don't make it, they're going to take down this one xenomorph, and, some of them saying F this and such, yeah. And it's still, it's a shame because some of them being killed, like, of course, David being one of them, Junior, Frank and such, yeah. But at least, 3 of them managed to survive, and because at one point they are closing the doors, they're getting the xenomorph's attention, getting it to chase them, and by closing the doors, and also one important thing that happens, and that could defeat the xenomorph, the molten lead, the molten lead, because fiery stuff and such, and to speed things up still, because because at one point, Gallic getting very wounded and such, and because of the xenomorph, Dillon and Ripley, and along with Gallic and Francis, they're the only survivors, and by this point, and what's going on this time, the climax and the suspension, it never fails. It never fails in the Alien films, and I think in this, not bad. Well, with that going on, and them trying to lure the xenomorph, and by closing the doors, the rescue team are on their way, from the Weyland Company. Yep, they're on their way while that's going on. And by that point, and how far they're getting, luring the xenomorph, and even at one point, well, Leonard, he sacrifices himself by getting the xenomorph to come to him, and Ellen Ripley, she still wants to be killed, but still, Dylan telling her that the deal was they kill the xenomorph and then her. So again, Dylan sacrificing himself and getting Ripley and Golic to drop the liquid and such that could possibly defeat the xenomorph. It seems like it at first, but nope, that didn't work. And what comes next is they pour more drips of liquid and so on, and some kind of chemicals and that could for sure defeat and destroy the xenomorph, and it for sure does, because what happens next to the xenomorph, boom, it explodes, and seems like everything's good now, all ends well. Not quite, because after they finally defeated the one xenomorph, well, we know still that Ripley, she's no longer safe, and she's not going to survive that much longer because of what's inside of her. Well, the Weyland Company finally showing up, and Francis is there to greet them, and still, Francis, he still wants to get off this planet, this prison, and they question Francis, where is Ripley, and, he has them follow him to where exactly she is, and sure enough, because when the Weyland Company, those that came, the rescue team, coming face-to-face with Ripley, well, surprise, surprise, she's greeted by Bishop 2. Well, I mean, that's how he's credited, but basically someone that looks exactly like Bishop, and still being Lance Hendrickson. And it turns out, whom Lance Hendrickson plays, and I don't think, the movie doesn't say his name. I guess we are to assume maybe his name is Bishop, but we find out that he is responsible for building the specific android Bishop and resembling him. Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, take for example in Star Trek, Dr. Noonien Soon. He built androids that closely look like him. So that's what this movie does. Alien 3. Not bad. I mean, I'm not complaining. And it makes sense. Nice to see. And by the way, because yeah, Bishop, because we do get a little bit of Bishop, and with the information that he gave to Ripley on what happened on the ship, and that, an egg did get on the ship, and it also turns out that, the Weyland Company knows about this, and even Bishop, he asked Ripley to, deactivate him for good, and that was the end of poor Bishop. Yeah, so nice to see we did get a little bit of Bishop, what was left of him, not in good condition, and right at the end, seeing the man who was responsible for building Bishop the android to look like him, and Ripley, she's not falling for it. Of course she doesn't trust the Weyland Company, and neither do we, us audience. And even though it seems like maybe the man who built Bishop, him convincing Ripley that there's nothing bad's gonna happen, they will kill what's inside of her, they can get rid of it, they will destroy it for good, and she can have a much better, happy life, possibly get married. And that was mentioned early on, because a couple of times Ripley was asked if she was married, and of course not. So, and if possible, Ripley and the Doctor could have been together, but sadly, no. Especially what comes for poor Ripley. So, again, her not trusting them, and what she's attempting to do, and what she always wanted to do, sacrifice herself, die, and to save the universe, basically, with what's inside of her. Even Francis, he does the right thing, because, he grabs a giant, a steel, tube or whatever, and, hits the back of the man who built Bishop, and severe wounds, because, geez, his ear, actually, he might have been an android as well, because, yeah, I think I fully realize that now. Bishop 2? Yeah, so his ear being damaged and such? Jeez. I think I did see blood. I think so, but yeah. And he didn't seem to be in pain when that happened. And sadly, Francis, he meets his demise when they gun him down, and if only, and what he was hoping what would happen to him, get back to his wife and kids. It's unfortunate. And Gallic, yeah, him helping out Ripley, doing what she has to do, and she's not taking yes for an answer. Like, she's not going to oblige, basically, with Bishop 2 and the Wayland Company. She's not going with them. She's gonna frickin' die and sacrifice herself. And by doing so, you know, falling from her back, landing into the fiery pit and so on. And when she's falling and in slow motion, well, the xenomorph that was inside of her finally bursts out and she grabs it. Yeah, because the xenomorph is going with her. Yeah. No way is, like, she's letting the xenomorph escape that easily. Besides, like, could the xenomorph have jumped that good? But, you know, overall, yeah, she takes the xenomorph with her, and that's the end of Ripley. Yep. And you know what? This and Terminator 2, they kind of do the same thing, where, yeah, both main characters, they sacrifice themselves. You know, in Alien 3, sorry, the fingers. In Alien 3, it's Ripley, and in Terminator 2, well, it's the Terminator. So yeah, this in the same way, them sacrificing themselves, and basically showing that that was it. Like, that was both of those, each of those movies and each of those franchises closing off those two franchises. Or so that's what we thought. Yeah. But it was, you know, it was kind of a sad, you know, death, because Ripley, this fantastic character that we've rooted for in the first two films, and sadly for her to sacrifice herself, understandable, but yeah. And, well, after that, because, well, the Wayland Company, they leave the planet. They take Gallic with him as a prisoner, I assume. And, well, they close off the planet, the prison place and such. It's all closed off, yep. Florina, I think I'm still getting the name right. Yeah, Florina Fury 161 is closed off for good, and rightfully so. Yeah, and, you know, good, and, you know, sucks to be them, the Wayland Company. They still don't get their hands on a xenomorph. Yeah, so, and the crashed escape pod and such. For one last time, and the last bit of dialogue we get in this, and what would have closed off the franchise, well, hearing the same dialogue that was recorded from the escaped shuttle that Ripley was in the first Alien film, you know, giving the log and such that the spaceship Nostromo is destroyed, its crew members and captain all lost, and her being the only one that survived. Yeah, nice to see that they played that. That was a nice way to end it off. And also a computer saying that, yeah, Florina Fury 161, the prison planet and such, it's closed off, and, you know, final log entry, that kind of stuff. Yeah, an interesting way to end it off. I think the way that Alien 3 ends, not bad. Not bad ending, but at the same time, because, jeez, Alien 3, again, what a hot mess this was. And, you know, to some people, like, this being unfinished, but at the same time, when the director's cut happened, I think, in some ways, it patched things up for this movie, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, like the director's cut. Sometimes the director's cuts for movies always turn out pretty good and better than the theatrical versions. And I'm pretty sure for this, Alien 3, the director's cut, much better than the theatrical version. Yeah. The story for Alien 3, I thought it was okay. The characters, and for one last time seeing the Ripley, you know, and knowing these characters in Alien 3, the monks, the prisoners, their personalities and such, and the xenomorph in this Alien film, pretty cool. And like I said, walking like a dog on all fours and killing its victims, and what happens, in the climax, the suspension, and towards the end, and just the dramaticness and the climax and the suspension, just all of that, I think was pretty good. And, because it feels as though that, the Alien franchise never disappoints on that, especially how they do the xenomorphs. Never disappoint with that stuff. The music and score, I thought was not bad. Music never disappoints, being really good to listen to, and with, the dramaticness and the suspension. Yeah. So what am I saying? And yeah, again, if only Alien 3 would not have had horrible luck, because, again, it, feel sorry for the cast and crew and its director, because, they did their very best, but sadly, like I said, Alien 3 turned out to be really bad luck. Yeah, just overall, Alien 3, I think it's okay. It's not the best, but it is what it is, and it's not horrible, it's okay-ish, and I'm sure you guys would feel the same way as I do. And I'm giving Alien 3, well, this sounds about right. I'm giving Alien 3 6 out of 10 stars. Yes, 6 out of 10 stars for Alien 3. And what about you guys? What do you think of Alien 3 itself? Have any of you seen the director's cut? And do you think and feel the same way as others that the director's cut of Alien 3 is pretty good and it kind of patched things up with this movie, what was your first impression on it, when watching the theatrical version? Were you just like, oh my gosh, like, I could tell already that this is a disaster. Because I don't think it fails. It fails to realize, and it doesn't take you that long to realize and such that, it is a hot mess and what to expect throughout the entire film. Do you think that the direction where this Alien film was taking was okay? What did you think of the ending? And, the fact that Ripley, she gets killed off. Just overall, what do you think of Alien 3 itself? And with what I've had to say, my review on it, and what did you think of my review? Leave comments and give this review video a like as always. And so, with all that being said, thank you very much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed my review of Alien 3. More review videos are on the way. They're going to be awesome. Keep looking forward, and I'll see you guys in the next video / review. And of course, continuing on with the Alien review marathon, stay tuned later tonight because, well, it wouldn't take Fox that long, and especially after the poor results of Alien 3, because the franchise going downhill, and it seemed like that was the end of the Alien franchise, and with, Alien 3, the movie's ending, Ripley being killed off, we would get another Alien film, and, with convincing Sigourney Weaver to come back for the 4th installment, and, well, this time, Ripley being in the 4th Alien film, well, yes, the Ripley was killed. However, Ripley in the 4th installment, well, she is a clone. So that does seem acceptable, but overall, the 4th installment just was another complete train wreck. Yeah. And it would for sure put the franchise to rest. Stay tuned later tonight for my review of Alien Resurrection. Take care and peace out.